This is shot using the OG Red Komodo paired with the 32mm Atlas Orion anamorphic lens. I fell in love with this lens when shooting my pilot that I co-wrote and directed, which premiered at the Slamdance Film Festival this year and then went on to play at Tribeca. The very talented DP of the project, Robinson Matos Rivera, who shot with Bad Bunny and many others, used primarily the 32mm as well as occasionally the 50mm. And after looking at the footage for many months while editing the project, I really felt like there was something very special about the 32mm, and I went ahead and bought one for myself. The one issue that I ran into a bit is that I shoot a lot of fashion video for work, and while the aesthetic of the lens is great, I'd love to use it a lot on these projects, the 2:40 to 1 aspect ratio is not ideal. At minimum, I'm asked to deliver 16:9. Mostly, I'm asked to deliver not only 16:9, but also 4:5 and sometimes 9:16, which is a pretty ridiculous shape to crop out of a 2:40 to 1 initial image. One great thing about Atlas, if you live in the LA area, is their office is in Glendale, and every Thursday they have an open house of sorts. You can go in. I don't even think you have to make an appointment, but you could also very easily email them and they'll get back to you. But you can go in on a Thursday and they have their whole set of all their lenses, the original Atlas Orions, they have the silver edition, and then they also have their newer, can't think of the name of their newer lens that's coming out, the full frame 1.5 times anamorphic. They also have cameras there, but you can bring your own, and they're super fun to talk to. I learned a lot talking to them. I got to test out lenses. I got to figure out which lenses I liked best for which situations. And in addition to that, Dan, the owner of the company, gave me a great idea, which I've used some since, which is that their lenses, unlike pretty much any other PL mount lenses I've seen, have the tab cutout on the 4 prongs of the PL on each of the 4 tabs instead of just the one, which allows you to actually rotate the lens 90 degrees. So to get 2:40 to 1, I'm shooting on a 6:5 aspect ratio internally, and then there's a 2 times stretch, which is 12:5, which if you divide that out comes out to 2:40 to 1. But what you can do if you rotate the camera is then be stretching your 16:9 sensor. The 9 part you're doubling, so it becomes a 16:18 sensor at that point, and is retaining all the same quality and characteristics of the lens. It's just creating a different shape, and that shape is very usable for pretty much any aspect ratio that you might use on a phone or on a website, because it's basically a square. The one trick which Dan taught me was not only to rotate the lens 90 degrees, but then to actually rotate the camera as well 90 degrees. Another way to think of it, which I think is a little bit simpler, is if you were to take the lens out from the PL mount, you leave the lens exactly in its correct orientation, so the top is still aiming up, and you rotate the camera 90 degrees. So you're still stretching the sensor the other direction from the normal way, but you're making sure that the oval bokeh is still going vertically, which it looks a little weird to go side to side. Now you're not getting the same characteristics of the lens if you just simply turn the lens 90 degrees. If you rotate the camera while leaving the lens upright, which is having the lens orient into 90 degrees differently than normal, you're now gonna have the same lens characteristics, but you're stretching the sensor the other direction. That would give you, basically, you're taking your, because the camera's rotated 90 degrees, you have a 9:16 sensor that you're now doubling the width on, which gives you an 18:16 ratio, basically a square. And in this case, I'm shooting 6K RAW, which effectively, it's not technical in terms of the actual resolution, but effectively it's giving me basically a 6K box. So it's a huge image that you can easily digitally punch into. Okay, this ridiculously wide image is the now vertical anamorphic, and I left the tripod in exactly the same place, even though it's a weird framing, so that you can see how different the field of view is from it. I mean, you are effectively using a larger portion of the sensor, so it's actually making the lens even wider than it would be otherwise. And you can do this with any Atlas lens. You can do it with any of the Orions. You can also do it with the Mercuries as well. And yeah, it's not for everything, but You know, if you're going to be investing in anamorphic glass, it's really nice to have more projects that you can use it for. It's beautiful and it's a unique look. So I think that it's not something that a lot of people are going to be doing. The one other thing you have to keep in mind though is you need to figure out how to monitor this, because the camera is not doing the inverted D-squeeze for you. And a lot of monitors actually can't do the squeeze in the other direction, unfortunately. I looked into this and was trying to find cheaper alternatives, but the only monitors that I could find that do this are the small HD monitors. I don't know if all of them do it, but I have the Indy 7, and I know the Cine 7 as well does this. And what you do is you go into the anamorphic mode and you do a 0.5 D-squeeze. So in essence, normally you'd be doing a 2 times D-squeeze if it was the normal direction, and you're doing it the opposite way, which is a half D-squeeze, a 0.5 D-squeeze. If you do what I'm doing, where you're rotating the camera, you'll also have to rotate the image 90 degrees so that it's the correct way, because you're currently shooting the camera on its side. This is a relatively new technique for me, so I haven't shot with it a bunch. I've done some tests with it, but I did shoot one fashion project with it that was done in the factory of a denim company that I was shooting for. And I thought it looked really cool. In addition to the fact that it's an easier shape to work with when you're having to give deliverables that are more vertical. I just like the aspect ratio. One thing that's kind of interesting with it is you'll start to notice that you'll probably want to frame things a little bit differently. I've found that it tends to lend itself to wanting to frame center a lot more, but that said, it was just a fun trick that I learned from Dan at Atlas, and have enjoyed having the extra flexibility in my anamorphic lenses, and just wanted to share it with you. This is at minimum focus on the lens. I've just pulled it right up to me, and just wanted to give you a sense of what it looks like when you get it up close. Yeah, thanks for watching. This is a new channel. Still kind of feeling out what kind of content I want to put up here, but planning to kind of split it up between talking a bit about some of my writer-director experience on narrative stuff, and also some small to medium budget and solo operator gigs that I DP and direct, mostly in the fashion video world, but you know, it applies to a lot of stuff. So I hope you like it. Hit me up with any questions or comments below, and I'll see you next time.